Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome, everyone. This is the Aim for the Rainbow Live. We have some cool stuff to talk about this evening. And as usual, I'm your host, David Gray Hammond. I'm everywhere. I'm just everywhere.
You're in more places than Olivia Coleman. Yeah.
People keep logging onto live streams and finding me. Yeah, we'll start with some brief audio descriptions. So I'm David Gray Hammond. I am a mid-30s male presenting white Mediterranean person. I have a shaved head that's hidden behind a banner, thick-rimmed purpley grey glasses, a lip ring, a beard, and an ear tunnel in like a green and grey stripy top next to the bookcase that everyone is convinced is going to fall on me or my son one day. Erin, would you like to do a visual description?
Yes. So I am a white woman in my early 30s with a buzz cut hair, glasses, a leather spiky choker necklace, and a little rainbow pendant. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says "Angry Autistic" on it, and I am stationed in front of a massive bookcase with more books than I could ever read because I have a problem.
Fantastic. Charlie, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Charlie Hart, also known as Awesome Charlie. My pronouns are she or they. I am a female presenting person, mid-40s, blonde hair, wearing a lot of Bi Pride colours today, Bi Pride bracelets and t-shirt and Bi Shadow. And behind me is nothing but a huge mural, which I always used to joke would always be unfinished. But since I gave up my day job, it's got quite a lot more detail on it now. Rainbows and pine trees, etc.
Fantastic. And Katie?
Yeah, I'm Katie Monday. I use they, them pronouns. I am a large white person with large glasses, which are orange and brown. I've got an eyebrow piercing in my left eyebrow. Usually I say my hair's really scruffy, but tonight I'm looking cute. It's okay, it's all right. But I got short hair, which kind of got like a sweeping fringe to it. I'm sat in my usual black t-shirt on a grey speckled sofa in front of some green curtains. And I'm going to be fiddling with this tonight. This is my fiddle of the evening, a tiny yellow stretchy man that has come into our lives through a party bag. My little man went to a birthday party. I thought, oh, he's good. He might be a bit too small for my little man. So
yeah,
I might have to nick that. Uh-oh.
So we've got a fair few things to talk about tonight, actually. I have no idea how long this will take, so strap yourselves in, get ready. It's going to be the ride of your life because, they've trusted the ADHD guy to keep people on track. So about 10 minutes from now, we'll be talking about quantum physics. I suppose we probably ought to jump straight in, which the first thing we're here for is we are celebrating 2,000 followers on Aim for the Rainbow.
Yes.
So who wants to celebrate?
Katie brought this to our attention because they've been doing a lot of the posts recently on the Facebook page and the website. So
yeah. I hope other people won't mind me saying this, but Aim for the Rainbow, as with a lot of other neurodivergent-led things, has peaks and troughs in how much spoons and energy and time that people can put into things. So recently, I've been kind of taking a bit of charge on Facebook, I suppose, and trying to keep up with that. So there's been a few more followers coming along. So we just wanted to use tonight really to talk about who are we? Why did we come about? Why are 2,000 people following us, and hopefully get a few more following us as well, and the blog and various other bits that we're doing, like actually out and about, boots on the ground kind of work as well. So but I said, it'd be really nice to do a live. We've been talking about this for a little while. as you do as autistic and ADHD people. And then we were very last minute, and I was like, we've got 2001 followers. We
Yeah.
should do something. Let's do a thing. And I think this was an important date for you as well, Charlie. If
Yeah,
I'm
it
right in
is. It
thinking.
is. I'll talk about this in a bit, but I want to talk to you about my son Iggy, who was also autistic and LGBT, and something that I'm planning to do with Aim for the Rainbow and people associated with that, in order to commemorate when he would have been 20 next week.
Yeah, you may have noticed there is an Iggy's Initiative logo next to Erin's head. So yeah, we will definitely get onto that topic. I'm glad you talked about the peaks and troughs. Do you remember that time I wrote 4 books in 5 months? What?
Yeah. Isn't that 4 books every 5 months? All the
Yeah.
time, for the rest of your life.
The problem is I've already got like 3 more on the go at the moment.
Yeah. You're a little bit better than me because I have it all up here, but I just don't do anything.
Yes.
Or I
yes.
have like a half a thing and maybe this thing, and
I've got loads of half-written comedy sketches and songs, parody songs, as well as my trilogy of funny books. And it's all in here.
It's all in there. My WordPress the drafts on my WordPress for my website is about 45 unfinished drafts that I've half written stuff and then got distracted by something else.
We should all finish each other's work.
Maybe we could. That might work really well.
Well, I just figured that if I wrote enough books, I wouldn't need one bestseller to retire off the royalties. If I write 1 million books and only sell £1 worth of books for each title, that's £1 million.
Or you can write 10 books and sell them all to Netflix, like Harlan Coben.
Yeah, I don't think my books would make like a easy sell on Netflix. Like, I can't imagine people. I mean, okay, there's a lot of autistic people who watch a thing about neuronormativity, but we are a minority group, so they don't tend to cater for us.
Boo. Do you think, whilst we're talking about books, Erin, I keep meaning to ask you, are you, so obviously where you've written Queerly Autistic, have you got any kind of other books happening?
Yes, I'm currently working on a companion workbook for Queerly Autistic. And when I say working on it, I mean I've been working on it for 18 months and it's not there. But my publisher's been supremely lovely to me. There we go. Look, advertising.
Actually, I do have one. The Kindle version, like a cheap.
Mine's over there, but I do have
it. My publisher's been really lovely. I basically said, look, I've been having some neurodivergent hiccups with this entire thing, and they've been really nice. They've just given me extensions. We've now settled on mini deadlines for word counts, which has been a lifesaver. But so I'm hoping that will come out at some point in the next 10 years. And but by the time I'm 40, I would like to have this workbook finished.
That's nice. I like that. Yeah, that's it.
I'll have written my
Christmas
first
2030
books by then.
You will have, yeah. And I'll still be chugging along page 70 on my workbook.
So, I guess people probably want to know what Aim for the Rainbow is, like, because 2,000 followers, it's respectable, but not everyone's going to have heard of us. And I know for a fact this is going live to places more than just the Aim for the Rainbow page. So, who wants to take the question of, who we are and what we do?
I'm happy to take that if you want, and so everyone else can jump in, obviously. So I'm going to read directly from the Facebook page because it's there and it words it better than I can. Basically, queer volunteer corner of Autistic Inclusive Meets, basically celebrating the LGBTQIA+ community within the autistic community. We are obviously, I hope people know who AIM are. They do amazing work, Autistic Inclusive Meets, and if you don't follow their work, definitely give them a follow. They do amazing work. And it was, I believe, a discussion a few years ago between Emma and Alex, where they discussed that we really needed something LGBTQIA+ specific because there's such an intersection of autistic and LGBTQIA+ kind of identities. I've skipped ahead. I do apologise. But you were ready with that. And they reached out to me and a couple of other people and said, you're a queer autistic person or a trans autistic person or a queer and trans autistic person. Would you be interested in this? I think the initial thing was to have a space where we could provide information, we could share links to helpful things, we could talk about different identities, we could, just create a safe space for people who live on that intersection under the double rainbow, which is one of my favorite phrases. Yeah, and I think that's, and then that a few years has gone by, and we've here we are, 2,000 followers, which is amazing.
Would you say it's a space where we can be queerly autistic?
I would say, thank you very much for that. What a wonderful title for a book that would be. Yes, a space where we can be queerly autistic, because there is increased understanding of the fact that there is this intersection, but it's still not a lot of specific resources and guidance and support for us. So it was really important. I know it was really important for Emma to create this space, and Alex as well.
Shall I talk a bit about where it developed from there then?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
So Emma and Alex and Erin put everything into place, and then really early on in 2000, 2020 even, I got talking to Emma because all my family that would have bought my son Christmas presents donated to Aim for the Rainbow. They donated to AIM with money to do something for Aim for the Rainbow. So she phoned me and suggested, how about we have Iggy's initiative, like a project within Aim for the Rainbow, where we do something for young people that are autistic or otherwise neurodivergent and LGBT, do something that will give them like a sense of community and make them feel supported and celebrated, that kind of thing, and call it Iggy's initiative. We could have an art exhibition and all sorts. So I agreed to that, and we launched that in February 2020. But then, of course, the pandemic hit. So the idea of having an in-person art exhibition was out of the window. Suddenly everybody's priorities were changed. And if I just talk a little about Iggy now, I'll just give you a trigger warning, 2 trigger warnings, in fact, or even 3. So this will involve talking about child death and suicide and bullying. So Iggy is my son, and he ended his life in April 2019, and he was autistic, out about being autistic. He was LGBT as well, and gender questioning. And basically, he'd always been bullied at school for being weird and different. And then we found out that he was struggling with some things, that he had no one to talk to, no really positive, visible role models. He, as people that are autistic and gay and gender questioning, this is. And so what I really want, because like I'm those things as well, and I didn't have those things at school. So what I really wanted for him is, in his memory, to create a community where we talk about not only how normal and common it is to be neurodivergent and LGBT, because it is. It's not some weird thing that's only 1 in 1,000. It's really, really common. And provide a safe space where people can talk to each other and mutually support, moderated by autistic elders. And so we have the Rainbow Room on Facebook, which is a group. It's not very well used, I'm afraid, but I have met some of my most precious autistic and LGBT friends there. And the Facebook page, to which a few of us are able to add to, and it's got a big following now, as we just mentioned. And we can use that to spread and promote understanding and acceptance as well. The Facebook page attracts allies as well, and parents, and hopefully it will give various different people a wide cross-section of society a bit more understanding. So Iggy's initiative then, it's got started, and we have a few written pieces on the website that are written especially for that, but we haven't really gone out into the community and done much with it. But a side project I have is Iggy Rocks. So I found out about, there's a few rock painting groups on Facebook where people paint rocks and then they hide them for people to find. And there's all kinds of different Facebook groups with different names. There's an absolutely massive suicide prevention themed one in America. It's got tens of thousands of members. But I thought I'll just do one for Iggy and call it Iggy Rocks. So this, of course, this is the first one that I made, and it's only after I varnished it that I realised that the rainbow is actually inside out. So I was going to repaint that, and then my kids said, "Wow, it's quirky and different, like Iggy. Different is okay." So across the bottom, then I wrote "different is okay," and that became my hashtag. #different is okay. So then on the back, it's got the little Facebook logo and Iggy Rocks. So it started there. And then I had this grand plan that on the first anniversary of his death, which is 5th of April 2020, I was going to paint lots of these, and I painted them with all kinds of pride logos and life-affirming messages. And I was going to go for a really long walk, retracing the steps of a walk that I'd done with Iggy, which is all up through Tardy Big Locks along the canal, all the way from Alvechurch, where I live, to Droitwich. But then the pandemic hit and people were saying, don't touch anything. You can go out for a little walk, but you can't touch anything. So that plan was completely scuppered, which was pretty heartbreaking. But I did it again in September for what would have been his 16th birthday. And I'm going to be doing it again next weekend, and I want lots of people to get involved. So this is how you do it. I mean, I get these rocks from places like beaches, riverbeds. You can buy them in garden centres. This is a slate one that I picked up in Devon. This is a beach rock from Bournemouth. And then if they're not a good colour to paint on, you just get plain white acrylic paint and paint it on and leave it to dry. And then do your designs. Rainbows are great, or just life-affirming messages like "you matter" are great. A lot of the suicide prevention ones have a semicolon, and the sort of hidden meaning behind that is life doesn't have to stop. You start a new phase. But my kids have got all these LGBT stickers, and these are great ideas as well that you could paint on rocks, like a bee with pride flag colours. There's a rainbow that is a trans pride flag. Proud to be me in bi flag colours. This one I love, the rainbow sheep of the family with a pride flag. So you do that, and if you get acrylic paint pens like this, like these are Posca pens, or you can get thinner ones like that. What you find is, even if you're not a great artist, if you make a mistake with acrylic paint, you can just go over it. So leave it to dry and go over it, but keep it really simple. And you can Google easy rock painting ideas, and there's so many that come up. And then when the paint is dry, spray on some clear varnish. You can paint it with like rock with yacht varnish, or you can get craft varnish. And if
nail polish is also good.
Yeah, that's
if you don't have fancy craft stuff.
Yeah, I've had people that have thought, I'm not really into craft, but I want to get involved. So they've used whatever they've got at home. So one of my first ones, it was a troll, and I did it with pink nail varnish. And one of my friends from the local folk club, he knew Iggy liked 007 and that he was autistic. So he coloured in, it was a 007 James Bond logo, but with an infinity flag instead of an infinity sign instead of the 00, and then coloured in the black background with a Sharpie. And that's completely fine, but just with Sharpies, you've got to only apply a really thin coat of varnish from a distance if you're using the spray varnish. Otherwise, the colours really bleed into each other. But yeah, I mean, Posca pens is the easiest way to do it, and the spray varnish. So my idea is join the Iggy Rocks Facebook group if you want, but I try and put pictures of the rocks on the other social media as well. And anyone can join. The only rule really is you don't say anything that isn't life affirming to neurodivergent and LGBT people. So if there's any homophobic trolls or anything, I would kick them out. But other than that, it's an open group. And if you find an Iggy Rock, take a picture of it, put it in the group. If you paint them, then hide them for people to find. And that day that was Iggy's birthday, and I walked to Droitwich and hid rocks on every lock on the tidy big flight of locks. I had 2 different people message me to say I was really low and I found one of your rocks and it really gave me a boost, and thank you so much, and do you mind if I keep it rather than re-hiding it? And that's absolutely fine as well, because that's the idea. It's a little creative project to remember Iggy, but if it brings a smile to someone's face that was previously feeling really low, then that's absolutely fabulous as well.
And I think that's really important, isn't it? Because, fundamentally, that's why Aim for the Rainbow exists, is because, being neurodivergent is difficult enough. Being LGBT plus is difficult enough. Being both at the same time, it's its whole other thing, and it can be so lonely.
Yeah.
Like, I think back to my own teenage years and how lonely I felt, because I hadn't come to terms with the fact that I was queer. I didn't have a diagnosis of being autistic. I thought I was just a really weird person who didn't fit in anywhere. And I think really that's what Aim for the Rainbow is about, isn't it? Is it gives people a space to be themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
And
And
actually,
no, they're not alone, because there's lots of us actually.
And someone in the comments actually said, Moats Pace the Plage said, not having those role models is a large reason why I'm so outspoken now. And I think that's that's true. I think a lot of us are very outspoken now because we don't want other people to feel as alone.
We're
as
all
we
trying
do.
to be the role models that we didn't have when we were growing up. I think Katie, you've written a blog about this, haven't you?
Yeah. And then having my son a couple of years ago, just trying to be then a role model for him, like to say like it's okay to be you, whoever you is, as long as you're a nice person. Like that's all I really need from you, really. So it's having children and being queer and being neurodivergent is interesting. Really interesting. So
my younger 2 kids, it's like a badge of honor to them when they went for their autism diagnosis. They were on tenterhooks thinking, I hope they're not going to say I'm normal. They wear the queer status like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
I think that's something that doesn't get talked about very much. And I think, that you look at an autism diagnosis and you go, and everyone goes, oh, a tragedy, how sad. But, I got my diagnosis at 23, and I know both my mum and me, the night before my appointment, were in floods of tears, and we weren't crying because we were worried that I was going to get an autism diagnosis. We were crying because we were worried about what would happen if they said I wasn't.
Yeah.
Because then it was like, what's going on then? This is such an explanation. Everything makes sense if I get this diagnosis. What do we do if I don't? And then when we got it, it was this, not just for me, but for my parents as well.
Almost everyone that's diagnosed autistic as an adult starts with self-diagnosis. And if they've looked into themselves and how they react to the world and how they think and feel, and they do the research about autism and decide, yeah, that's me, they're never going to be told they're not autistic. They're always right. My concern is it's not the same with ADHD.
Yes.
hear quite a lot of nightmare stories about people that do have ADHD that are told that they don't, when they eventually get in for a diagnosis, that is, because if they're on the NHS, they cannot get through screening or be waiting for 4 years.
Yes. I've not even tried. I have a work coach through Access to Work, and all of our sessions have been autism and ADHD, because he's like, well, you're clearly ADHD. I'm going to give you tools that you need as an ADHD person. I'm not diagnosed, and I've not even started the process. I have a friend who went to a GP and said, I think I'm ADHD, and he went, oh, I think you definitely are, but I think it's so hard to get a diagnosis. I think you might find that quite traumatic, so I'm not going to refer you. So it's a bit of a
madness
nightmare.
to me that they don't do it more holistically and diagnose both
Absolutely.
at the same time, because it's well known that a third of autistic people at least have got ADHD as well, but yet they still treat it like two separate things that have got to be dealt with completely separately.
Well, you've got your one label now. Here's your one label. You don't get another one.
Yeah.
Greedy.
My son's only 10 months old at the moment, but if you're watching this in the future, my boy, Daddy loves you even if you're neurotypical, and with the right support, you can achieve anything.
So brave.
Neurotypical ally, David.
Brave you. Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a lot of coming to terms with being. I think we're all late diagnosed here, aren't we? Or late realised here. So
Yeah,
like it's. I found that trying to work out my queer sexuality and my queer gender, as soon as I had confirmation of being autistic, all the other things started to click into place for me. You know, now that makes sense of this weird gender I got going on over here. And I was always aware that I was bisexual, but for me, my gender and my sexuality definitely go together. And then not knowing that you're neurodivergent as well, yeah, it's a lot to untangle. So being able to have Aim for the Rainbow, where there's information there for people who've already been through this or are currently going through this, is really, really helpful. Like, we've got a lot of blogs on there about all sorts of different experiences, from kind of coming out to accessibility at Pride events. We've got some fiction in there as well. I think there's a little bit of poetry and stuff like that on there. So there's all sorts of really different, interesting kind of blogs on there, which we're hoping. Well, David's just written one that's going up this weekend.
Some videos on the website, I think, because while I've been self-employed, I've learned a bit of how to make a website, and I kind of know what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So I think over the next year, I think we've got a lot of kind of work going on with Aim for the Rainbow to just kind of up the ante a bit post kind of lockdowns and stuff, and hopefully to do an Aim for the Rainbow. Are we calling that a picnic? Is it a Pride picnic? Is it a Pride event?
Yes. So we haven't got a date confirmed yet, but Aim do a Autistic Pride craft fair in Greenwich, isn't it, in London, around April, is it?
There's one at Christmas. There's one at Christmas, and there's one in July.
And we thought it would be a good idea around April next year, probably in the Easter holidays. What is the 5th anniversary of losing Iggy, to do a LGBT and autistic Pride similar event. So be like a Pride thing, but for autistic people as well. And I thought it'd be nice. It'd be a very positive event, I think, but it would be nice to have a little vigil for all the kids that have ended their lives due to feeling weird and different and getting bullied, etc. I know of 3 around the same time as it happened to Iggy. They're all in the tabloids apart from Iggy. There must be hundreds of others. And if we could light candles for them and put their names, and particularly if they're trans and non-binary young people that have left us, and their chosen name needs commemorating as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, but not many people have come forward yet because we don't have the reach, I think, but it would be lovely to get more people involved.
I just want to really quickly, someone is confused because there's lots of, this is streaming to multiple places and they don't know which one's the correct chat.
Yeah.
All of them are the correct chat. They all
Yeah.
come through to my screen and I can see them all. And I was actually going to pin the first comment this person made, which is, if anyone's in the Cornwall area and wants some different kinds of rocks to paint for Iggy's rocks, Cornwall, if you're in that area, apparently has lots of rocks and minerals.
There's I picked up a piece of serpentine actually in Devon, but serpentine, I'm going to be nerdy now. It's like a black rock with a red vein, which you only find in Cornwall. If you ever been to CAMHS Cove at the Lizard Peninsula, it's all serpentine and they make jewellery with it there. I really want to go down to Cornwall and get hold of some of that and make that into Iggy Rocks. But yeah, you're quite right, Ryan.
Imagine being nerdy in a neurodivergent space. Absolutely appalling behaviour. How dare you?
It's so safe, honestly, being nerdy. I did a TikTok about this. I should put it on the page. So many times when I was younger and I didn't know I was autistic, I wouldn't let people know that I was interested in bird watching, for instance, because it's not very sexy and fashionable and trendy or whatever. And now I really couldn't give a toss. Yeah.
It's good.
Something that's come with age with me has been, I'm just going to talk at you about this thing that's potentially very boring for you. But I'm having a good time.
She's 14 and she's already on it with that. And
I can really
talking about Good Omens, quoting from Good Omens, telling me random David Tennant facts. And this has been going on for about 3 weeks now. And
that's been me for the past month. So good company.
Yeah.
I can really relate to this because I don't care if people want to hear what I've got to talk about. I'm going to talk about it. You need to hit the ground running because the chances are I'm going to start in the middle of the conversation as well.
I will find a way to steer the conversation to the thing I'm very interested in.
You'd be amazed how many things I can relate back to Autistic Experience.
Yeah. Some of the quotes are really pertinent. Like, how much trouble could I get into for asking questions, says Crowley before his fall from grace. And that's me all over. I will ask impertinent questions from people in positions of authority, and I'm not even going to apologise because that's just what I do, and I'll always do it.
Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
Someone's got to do it. Same.
My favourite thing to do with people in authority, this is the right life to talk about this on, is that you find someone in authority and then you pepper them with questions about how not inclusive they are.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a hobby of mine. It's just making people feel uncomfortable.
Random unsolicited phone call from somebody in a position of authority. And I'm like, why do you think it's okay to phone somebody you know is autistic out of the blue with no warning from a withheld number? I can't answer that.
I'm not the only one then who just doesn't answer withheld numbers, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't. It was a nightmare.
I was expecting a call from a medical professional, or I would have left it.
Yes, I occasionally answer them if I'm expecting a call from a doctor or someone like that. But other than that, if it's withheld, I'm like, no.
We need some legislation in the UK, I think, where if they're going to call from a withheld number, they just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. if you're thinking of doing it, don't do it. That could be the law. I've written it. There we go. Pass
there it is. Thank you very much. Section 1, paragraph 1.
No. Why aren't we in government? Everything would be so simple.
It'd be good, wouldn't it? I think, sorry, just to get us back on track, actually, we're hoping to do London Pride next year, is that right as well?
Oh, yes, I'm going to apply for a charitable place for, I don't know if it'll just be Aim for the Rainbow. We might do it for all of AIM. Yeah, I think we should actually. With a charity place, you get about 50 wristbands, so Yeah, I think we'll broaden it up to all of AIM.
I think so.
Yeah, so AIM will have a presence at London Pride next year.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
So
potentially another place I can show up unexpectedly. Although at this point, I think people do actually expect me to be there. Like, so I'm not quite as mysterious as I used to be because it's everywhere. Like,
You just pop up and we're like, oh, hello. Where did you come from?
yeah, yeah. So we've got a few more like face-to-face stuff going on next year, which is really, really exciting. So we're just kind of trying to build a bit more momentum about
Hang
that.
on,
Really.
you guys exist in real life?
You've rumbled me.
legs and
I've been AI. I have been AI this whole time.
okay, well, there is another thing we need to talk about whilst we're talking about in-person stuff, which is there's been a petition ongoing, and I don't mind talking about this if that's easier.
Yeah.
Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services. If you've been following AIM's work, if you've been following my writing, you probably know that Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services are doing a really rubbish job at supporting autistic children, in that they generally don't support autistic children. So there's been a petition ongoing and a lot of blog posts. It's over 200,000 signatures now. So AIM is going to deliver the petition to 10 Downing Street, and whilst they do it, there's going to be a protest, and that's going to be on September 13th, 1 till 3:30 p.m. And that will be at Downing Street. I don't know how much on Downing Street, because I feel like they're probably not going to let like a lot of autistic people into 10 Downing Street. They should, because as we just said, we should be in government. But Downing Street is the place, and 1 till 3:30 on the 13th of September. Be there, and make a peaceful nuisance of yourself. But,
to say as well, so the actual handing in of the petition to Downing Street, I may have done this before, but they only let 6 people actually go to Downing Street to hand it in, and I believe those 6 people have been chosen. And we'll be going
directors of AIM, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, and Damien, I think, as well.
And Damien,
so those are the people who will be actually going up to Downing Street. We won't all be able to do that, but we will be kind of outside, making as much of a nuisance of ourselves as we are allowed to under the new laws about protest, which the Facebook page has posted a link to the Liberty Human Rights page about the new protest laws. So if you're nervous about anything, do have a look there. And we won't be doing anything, we won't be leading anything illegal, but if you're nervous about it, there's a link on the Facebook page.
I'll just give you a bit of context, I think, because not everyone knows what this is about. CAMHS are the only NHS service that provide mental health support to under 18s. So they should be providing mental health support to anybody under the age of 18 that needs it. But with government funding cuts and possibly some bad management as well, I don't know, and various strange ways that the NHS works these days, the service is diminished more and more and more. Even if you're not autistic, it's really hard to get any support from CAMHS because they're prioritising cases where there's serious self-harm and suicidal ideation or attempts. So you can be struggling a lot with mental health and possibly need medication, but not reach that threshold. And then add on to the mix, if you're autistic, which, let's face it, a lot of adolescents with mental health issues are, even if they don't know. What tends to happen is CAMHS say, we can't do anything about this because it's just the kind of anxiety and low mood, etc., that you would expect from being autistic and a teenager. So, like my daughter Z, when she was first referred to CAMHS, and she did a WebEx during the pandemic, she had tears streaming down her face and could hardly breathe, and described herself as crippled with anxiety. And then she got diagnosed autistic, And the fobbing off letter from CAMHS said, this child doesn't have anxiety over and above what you would expect when you're an autistic teenager. Oh, well, that's okay then. By the following year, she was really quite seriously ill, and the school referred her again, and she was fobbed off again. And that time they didn't even speak to her. So I did a PALS complaint, and it wasn't upheld.
And actually,
all the explanations from the CAMHS fobber offer. And this isn't isolated. This is almost everybody.
I will make something very clear for any CAMHS professionals who may currently be watching this after the fact. Level of anxiety for autistic children, like, it's not part of the diagnostic criteria. It is not normal for us to be anxious all the time. And I don't mean like a little bit worried. Like, if you've got a child who's having panic attacks and more panic attacks and feeling stressed and depressed and doesn't know what to do with, that's not normal for being autistic. Like, that's not just no, do something.
Yes, it's like saying your natural state is suffering, so we're not going to help you.
Yeah.
What can I do? It's just naturally occurring.
Autism is trauma, what?
Or school or anything. No, I don't know. I don't know what to do. Never mind.
The other one they use is, this child doesn't meet threshold. They love their threshold in these services. Like, if suffering children don't meet your threshold, please adjust your threshold.
Yeah,
you must suffer more before we will help you. I think that's the point. And I think that's true of a lot. You look at kind of autism diagnoses as well, and often people get a diagnosis after they've reached crisis, and at that point it's like you get help once you reach a crisis point, and by that point sometimes it's too late, and people need to be helped before they reach crisis. And sorry, it makes me really cross. It makes me really, really cross.
Well, it was really triggering for me because, you know, it was she was first fobbed off only a year after her older brother died, and actually she found him. So, and and they knew all that. I told them all that, but they still weren't interested. So when she was then borderline anorexic and self-harming, they still weren't interested, because they'd already fobbed him off once. So the decisions they made in that 40-minute WebEx call during the first lockdown, they're sticking with that. So we live on the border of Worcestershire and Birmingham. So I spoke to the GP and she said, that's awful. I'll refer her to Birmingham CAMHS and see if they do any better than Hereford and Worcestershire CAMHS. And she did get seen through them, but it was a psychiatrist that wanted her to go to Birmingham city centre at 10 o'clock every Saturday and sit and have a face-to-face conversation with eye contact and everything. So the other issue is that it isn't always, when you can get support, it's not inclusive. I've heard horror stories about autistic kids that have been locked up in mental institutions by CAMHS and then got iller and iller as their friends have died around them.
I think there's a big issue as well between, you know, the choice of having as a child and a young person as getting diagnosed autistic or ADHD or whatever it might be, and then that putting a barrier into mental health. And we see exactly the same thing happening in gender identity healthcare as well. Well, you know, maybe you're just confused by gender because you're autistic, or, you know, well, I'm neurotypical, or so I know more than you do, and just this kind of, again, being fobbed off. So it might be that a child gets a diagnosis and something great might come from that, but then if also you're getting knocked back from mental health services who should be helping you and gender identity healthcare services that should be helping you, and that's just the tip of the iceberg for things. So professional bodies are using people's neurology against them to be able to access care that we absolutely have the right to access. You know, there's real big ideas around our vulnerability and our inability to know ourselves and our neurology. And I think a lot of practitioners are very worried about, especially with the transphobia that is so rampant in the UK at the moment, to, you know, have seemed to have accidentally helped an autistic person, and then that's all kind of, you know, gone wrong or differently and something like that. And then it's like, well, you shouldn't have done that because, you know, they're a vulnerable person and they don't know what they're talking about and stuff. I think they're so concerned about the backlash that they just prefer to just say, yeah, you don't really, I know you're like 40, but you don't really, and you live by yourself, but you don't really have mental capacity. Yeah, and I think a lot of autistic people are getting that as well. Whereas also,
bias, isn't it?
and if you go into a gender identity healthcare clinic in the UK, oh, what was the point I was going to make?
Sorry.
Oh, as a non-diagnosed neurodivergent person, you then can't ask for accommodations.
Yeah.
So they are going to expect you to come in to the clinic wherever it is on set days and set times, and you are going to have phone calls, and it's likely to be quite busy in there, and it's going to be quite intrusive. And if you bring someone in with you who is they wouldn't be considered your carer because you're not realizing your neurodivergence. But if you brought someone in with you who was kind of like an emotional support, people might talk to them instead of you. So there's all these, you're almost you're between a rock and a hard place. Like, do I get my mental health looked after, or do I understand more about my neurology on a different side of things? Because obviously mental health is neurodivergence as well. You know, and do I realize my gender? Do I affirm my gender, or do I sort out my mental health, or do I sort out my other neurodivergence? And no wonder there's so many young people, especially, but there's definitely older people as well, who are just like, I can't get help for anything. And then just add stigma on top of that from society and just general, just nasty bastards in general. And, you know, it's no wonder we're all it's really, really rough.
No wonder the online community means so much to us. We meet people on Twitter or Facebook or whatever that relate to us and vice versa, and we become really solid friends with them. Really good mutual support network. I must get a dictionary and find words other than really.
I think as well, I think conversation, you know, knowing what goes on, you know, it is why it's so important that we you know, understand why some people choose not to get a diagnosis despite knowing they're autistic. I mean, you look at all of these and you think, of course, some people go, actually, is it going to cause me more harm to have a diagnosis than not? And that's why affirming self-diagnosis, while we still live in a system that does this, is so important. But like you said, if you self-diagnose, and you often can't, maybe in some spaces you can, because some spaces are a bit more understanding, but a lot of spaces you then can't ask for those accommodations. So it is a real rock and a hard place, and you understand why people say no to going after a diagnosis. But then you understand the issues, the difficulties they face because of that. It's just, no one should have to weigh up which one is more harmful for me, getting a diagnosis or not getting a diagnosis. Which one will cause me the least amount of horrific harm, you know? It's yeah.
See, from my own experiences, it doesn't matter whether you have a diagnosis or not. For me, when I was in substance use treatment, there were no accommodations. It was, everyone does it this way, that's how you're going to do it, and if you won't do it this way, you're not engaging. And it was ridiculous. You know, and they wondered why it took me so long to get sober. Like, I can't engage with this service, and it's not because I'm not willing, it's because you have made it actively hostile.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are very many services that just don't want us there, or think we're rare and don't come across there, do you know what I mean? Or or want us, or I don't know if it's worse, want to be able to help us but don't have any of the resources to do anything around that. You know, because I can't remember who I was reading from earlier. I was reading something on social media about the fact that even, it might have actually even been AIM, even, you know, even if you do go in to look for, oh, you know, what is autism, on a Google search, like the first things that's going to come, well, quite a lot of the first few pages of what you're going to search is going to be really horrendous stuff.
Deficits, impairments.
Mm. Yeah. So
needs ABA.
yeah. So, you know, and there's all this training, just professional training around autistic experience. It's not called autistic experience. It's called autism, as if it's floating around by itself as its own separate entity.
Like a virus you catch.
Yeah.
Autism.
Yeah. So you just think even if these people do try, you know, in inverted commas, what resources are actually out there? Because but there are autistic people doing training on this. I am one of them. Charlie is one of them. David is one of them. I don't know if Erin, I don't know if you do talks and stuff as well.
I do talks, not training as such, but I am available for speaking engagements.
So there we are. So we exist, out there. Yeah, it's a shame we're just not utilised as much as we can be.
I think a nice example, a good example, and I was just talking about it because it happened today, but part of my access to work package, and I've been very fortunate with my current employer being very, very understanding, is that I got a free awareness session, disability awareness session, but I was able to have my work coach conduct the session, and he specifically did it about being ADHD. And he knows me very well because he's been working with me for a year. And he and I basically crafted this 2.5 hour session together. And I was talking about stuff like, we don't use low functioning and high functioning anymore. And this is the problem with this is why Asperger's is a difficult term. And this is what, and that, and very much being able to have these conversations with my colleagues. And it was because my work coach is neurodivergent and he'd built the training with me to have with my colleagues. And it was like, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
All the time. This should not feel strange to me or like a privilege. This should be normal.
It's one of the first reasonable adjustments I asked for, actually, after my autism diagnosis. I'd already got reasonable adjustments for anxiety when people thought that was my only issue. But when I got my diagnosis, I said to my manager, can reasonable adjustment number one be that I'm allowed to educate people that I work with, my immediate team, the wider organisation even. Can I deliver some sessions about what it is to be me and how you can help me thrive at work? And yeah, they were really into that. There's still a video of me talking about what it's like to work there and be autistic on their website, actually.
Well, we've actually covered every single topic. We actually did that very quickly, and then we just sort of went off on a bunch of tangents. But that was to be expected because you left me in charge. So, is there anything else we want to cover whilst we're here?
Are there any questions in the chat we haven't answered?
Yeah, let's have a look at the chat quickly.
Ryan, my friend in California, he says functioning labels are still used a lot over there. Yeah, that must be quite difficult to cope with. When you want to celebrate your neurotype.
Sorry, Katie, what was that?
I kind of forget that they exist for ADHD until I go on a home visit with someone. So I work in the youth sector for anyone who's unaware of that. And I run a social group for 5 to 12-year-olds who are disabled. Quite a lot of the young people I work with are autistic and ADHD. Yeah, and then she said, "Oh, you know, when you have a phone call with someone, you say, oh, yeah, no, my little Bobby wants to come along to your group," and and you ask a few questions, and yeah, and she said severely ADHD, and I was like,
severe.
Kind of forgot that functioning labels are also shouldn't be, but are technically an ADHD thing as well. I think I focus so much on the issue of functioning labels for autism, I forget that they exist in kind of ADHD diagnosis as well.
People describe themselves sometimes in those terms as well, if they're not part of the community and they haven't gone through this learning curve. So the number of times that I've asked people if they're autistic as well, and they might say something like, I'm possibly somewhere on the spectrum, but very, very high functioning. I'm like, give yourself a break, man. You don't have to be good at everything. You can have struggles as well. You're still an awesome person.
So someone has asked if I can put links for AIM and AIM for the Rainbow and Iggy Rocks on my page afterwards.
Yeah.
I will do that. Can someone, I think I'm in the Iggy Rocks group, but
Yeah.
if not, can someone just send me the link
Well,
so that
it's
I'm
really
definitely
easy to
got it?
find. If you put hashtag Iggy Rocks, it brings up the group on Facebook.
Okay. Well, I will provide links to all of that on my page.
Fabulous.
And whilst we're on the topic of links, you can visit the website. So rainbowaim.com down there in the bottom left corner. And if you're not watching this on the Facebook page, you can in fact find us on Facebook. I may or may not have spent a lot of time preparing for this live because I didn't
You
want
only
to
know
go
about
on.
2 days ago. You're such a superstar.
Well,
We're
it
also on
gave me-
Twitter as well.
Sorry?
We actually began our life on Twitter, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're
Yes.
also on there as well. So
Yes.
We've got about 450 followers on Twitter, and I'm currently doing the tweets, and I keep forgetting about it because I keep meaning to leave Twitter. But if we can get anyone involved,
we will be continuing to call it Twitter.
yeah.
oh goodness,
Won't
I'm not
change
calling it
me.
anything else. Ridiculous.
I'm not going along with phony Starks and dictator.
I've not heard that before. I like that.
I've been calling him Melon this whole time. I'm going to start using that one.
Melon. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, we're also, I don't know, we were kind of discussing this earlier. So this is more of a conversation or a question than an actual recommendation. We were looking, I think, for more people to get involved with the blog as well. The people who are LGBTQIA plus and autistic or otherwise neurodivergent. We've got poetry on there. You could do fiction. You could do videos. So if I give you the email address for that as well, David, then you can put that on your little links thing as well.
We're here. We're queer.
Pictures,
please start writing for us.
Artwork, whatever you like. We've got a website, so you don't have to worry about if you haven't got your own website and you want to share stuff, then we'd absolutely love to have that. Yeah.
We do need to update it a bit, I think, because it doesn't have a proper homepage or a proper menu, so it's not great to navigate. But if there's anyone that wants to join the team and be a regular contributor, and particularly if you're good with WordPress as well, that would be really cool. But if you just want to send pieces in, that's great. I do think it needs to be more multimedia because we want to provide something that helps young people, and I don't think they read all our wordy blogs. And it's Facebook, and I think something that's a little bit easier to digest for the younger audience would be good.
I think we're quite a kind of scrappy little outfit at the moment. We're doing our best to provide to do this and using our skills, but we're really we'd love for other people to get involved,
especially young people.
young people. I feel like I've reached that stage where I can go, what are the youth these days into? I'm like, yes, hello fellow kids, you'll enjoy this. So young people getting involved would be fabulous.
Are things still on fleek, or is that like really old now? Like
on
this
fleek.
blog on fleek?
I think it's a few years out of date potentially, but don't ask me. Actually,
the problem was I was never really in with the cool, so
I don't understand the slang when I was
down with the kids, then everyone knows just how ancient you are. I think it makes my kids cringe. They've taught me how to use TikTok. You can find me on TikTok.
About a decade out of date.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. It's official. I'm about 10 years behind. So. Okay. Well, I think that's pretty much everything, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Great.
So this is the bit where we say goodbye and we wave awkwardly until I tell us to stop waving awkwardly. So thank you, all of you, for being on this live stream. Thank you to all the people who've joined in the comments. And you know, I'm gonna just put some things on screen whilst we wave awkwardly. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.